So, imagine that you are the receptionist at a child daycare center when a group of masked men with cameras burst into the lobby demanding to see the children. What should you do? That's not hypothetical. That question is at the core of a viral video that's been spreading around the country and that it's affecting our national policy, but it's a question that no one in the press has asked. Stick with me. This is going to be interesting.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
So, this is Nick Shirley, the alt-right golden child, he's only 23, of the MAGA movement, who claims responsibility for exposing fraud in the childcare industry in the Somali community in Minnesota.
People started to defend fraud and come after me for exposing the fraud that was happening.
The problem for him is that the notion that he's the one exposing the fraud only works on people who don't understand how time works. You see, Shirley put out his, quote, exposing video at the end of 2025 while Trump is in power, yet records show that, in fact, back in 2022, when Biden was in charge, prosecutors had already investigated, charged, and convicted around 90 people for the fraud, which was substantial for sure, but nowhere near the level of fraud you would think based on the 24/7 media coverage given to this young charlatan by the right-wing media. In order to, quote, expose this fraud that had already been investigated, charged, and convicted, Shirley needed to stage it for the cameras. As the 19th News reported it, here's what really happened. Quote, here's what really happened with child care fraud in Minnesota. Evidence is nowhere near the epidemic levels of viral YouTube video would suggest, but it hasn't stopped the crackdown on child care funding. Here's a fact check. The viral video posted just after Christmas spurred an avalanche of news coverage, changes from the Trump administration, and congressional hearings that appeared to indicate that a massive trove of child care fraud was just uncovered in Minnesota. Much of it's been misleading. The video by far-right YouTuber Nick Shirley, posted on December 26, purports to show that various Minneapolis daycares run by Somali Americans are not providing services to children despite receiving public funding. Although the video has already been debunked by investigators, the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress have seized on it. Vice President J.D. Vance said Shirley, quote, has done far more useful journalism than any of the winners of the 2024 Pulitzer Prize. Brings back memories of, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets.
America is lost.
Fallout has been massive. In the past week, the Trump administration has frozen child care payments to 5 Democratic-run states and ramped up reporting requirements for all states receiving child care funds to cover services for the lowest income kids. What does Nick Shirley uncover in his video? Nothing conclusive. The video shows Shirley visiting daycare centers run by Somali Americans, sometimes under the false pretense of trying to enroll a child. In a couple of instances, workers do open the door but seem immediately suspicious when it's clear Shirley is recording them and refuse to let them in or give them any more information. Because some of the sites appear closed and Shirley doesn't see any children, he declares this is proof of fraud at these facilities. Most child care centers are locked and have obscured doors or windows for children's safety. Children are also kept in classrooms and would not likely be visible from a reception area. One of the daycares in the video told several news outlets that it did not grant Shirley entrance because he showed up with a handful of masked men, which raised suspicion that the men were agents with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. At least one of the centers was closed at the time Shirley arrived because it opened later in the day to serve children of the second shift workers. Translation: his entire video was a sham. Which brings us back to the original question. If you were a receptionist at a child daycare center and masked men with cameras came in demanding to see the children, what would you do? If it is anything other than what the people did in the viral video, then you shouldn't work there. And if you think a 23-year-old concocted that story all on his own and got all of the right-wing media to follow him down that crazy rabbit hole all on his own, then you are an idiot. So, to quickly recap, Shirley's viral video that claimed to show child care centers that didn't serve children was quickly proven to be of child care centers that do serve children, and he used various misleading techniques to pretend to show otherwise. And the fraud he claimed to be exposing was actually exposed through investigation, charges, and convictions years earlier. In spite of that, the right-wing news, apparently doing zero fact-checking on their own, spread Shirley's lies on loop 24/7 for weeks as proof that Somali people are a bunch of lying crooks who should be kicked out of the country, helping to inspire a military crackdown on the cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis, Minnesota, the cutting off of much-needed funding for legitimate childcare, and other crazy nonsense, all because the right wing professed to be so upset about this massive fraud. But do they actually care about fraud at all? Also, on the scale of fraud in America, how massive was this fraud, which again was investigated, charged, and convicted years ago? Stick with us. This rabbit hole gets deeper and darker. Before we go further into that, let's just take a minute and stop and remember what J.D. Vance said to Dana Bash on State of the Union when he was confronted with evidence that he was spreading a story about Haitian immigrants eating pets in Springfield, Ohio, even after it was proven to be a lie. After all, the cat that was the focus of the story turned out to still be alive and was simply in the owner's basement. Let's all remember his reply.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana.
Just a meme, create stories.
All evidence we can find points to the fact that in the case of the Nick Shirley video regarding Somali immigrants in Minnesota, they are simply using the same old playbook. As part of our assessment of that, we decided to take a look at how the Trump regime actually seems to feel about fraud more generally. And given that they've been promoting the Shirley video, which itself has already been proven to be a fraud, just like the Springfield Pets BS, you probably already know where this is going, but it's probably much worse than you think. This is Amy Bach during an interview from prison. Notice how not black or brown she is. Most of you probably don't even know who she is, even though she is the orchestrator of the largest fraud scheme in Minnesota's history. Unlike the low-income fraudsters who again, were convicted years ago in the child care fraud scheme and who appear to have been doing their fraud for reasons of basic survival, Bach did her fraud in order to sustain an extravagant lifestyle that included Gucci bags, diamonds, fancy cars, and more. Bach's defrauding exceeded that of all the nearly 100 people convicted in the child care scheme by more than $100 million. In spite of that, does anyone recall any government operation to try to round up or punish all white women? Anyone remember Fox screaming about her for weeks 24/7? Of course not. She is far too white. This is Robert Brockman, a Texas billionaire who defrauded the U.S. government out of $2 billion. That's billion with a B. His punishment? A $750 million fine. So apparently, if you're a white man and you get convicted of massive fraud, the crime still pays. Notice how his criming seriously dwarfs that of even Bach, whose own criming was way more than almost 100 people combined in the child care fraud case. And then, of course, we have what might be the biggest fraudulent crime family in the USA, the Trumps. Add up all of their fraud convictions, along with a few of their closest business associates and friends that they've pardoned, and we are well into the billions of dollars, not even counting the billions of dollars in corruption that we can all see in front of our faces on a daily basis. In the face of all that, where are the endless loops of news coverage about all of that fraud and corruption from the right-wing media? All we hear from them about all that is crickets. It's almost as if they don't actually care about fraud at all. Instead of addressing actual fraud, they concoct fake stories about black and brown people, like when they accused black people from eating a cat in Springfield and never said they were sorry when it turned out the cat was still alive.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the pets.
America is lost.
Let's be clear. Fabricating stories about immigrants to justify militarizing the streets is right out of the Nazi playbook. If you ignore that obvious fact, then you are no better than the Nazi sympathizers in Germany. History will not be kind. You have been listening to the We Effing Told You So podcast. You can find us on Substack, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and most other places podcasts can be found. Please like and subscribe and share on your social media. And thanks for listening.